chit chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sac Town, we're feeding your soul. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star.
I'm going down, marathon, not a sprint today on If You Don't Like That. What's up? It is draft day. It's finally here. The Kings, I can't wait for their first... Wait a minute. Do the Kings have a pick? No. They are in the second round as we sit today, but we are plugged in. I say it's a marathon and not a sprint because if the Kings make a move today, we will start our draft coverage immediately. We will roll over to that. As it is right now, the King's Court will roll you straight into the NBA draft. If news breaks, I've got us plugged in. We can dial into the draft coverage directly, or at least the pre-draft coverage we can get to. So a lot to cover. Happy Wednesday. Do you think the Kings are moving up tonight? I know I just asked that. And if so, where do you think they're looking to get? Also, I can't say that I'm thrilled about some of the reports I'm seeing at the point guard position for the Kings. We'll get into that as well. We have a follow-up from yesterday, which will be interesting. So love to get your opinion today. A ton to go over. If you want to throw some trades, you got questions about players, we'll go over it here. We've got plenty of mock drafts. We have plenty. In fact, we have NBA power rankings before the draft. This is like the dry time of sports talk radio where you got to get creative. If you were with us a couple of days ago, Ash Hades, the Greek god of mosh pits, just dropped in and educated all of us about mosh pits. We were talking about physicality down low in the NBA. I'm like, it's like a mosh pit down there in the NBA finals. And we get all this, it's a culture. There's karate style. What were the other styles? There's karate. There was like freestyle, straight edge style. Ash is probably laughing at me right now because I'm forgetting some of it. But anyways, it will be a good show. Like I said, Grant and I already are planning to come on after the draft. So join us tonight. But, if the Kings make a move and trade up, which I'm hearing probably would be somewhere in the 20s, they're looking at players around there. I don't have a name or two of anybody specifically. I can tell you the guy I'd go up for. I think he'd be a nice fit here in Sac. I just don't think you can get up that high. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Join us tonight. We will have the draft coverage for you. If anything happens during the show, breaking news, we'll play this sound. So if you're going to put stuff in the chat and say, oh, trade, breaking news, and it's not breaking news, something might happen. You might go to the penalty box. Don't make me bring back the penalty box. So anyways, a lot to get to. Again, the first round of the NBA draft coming up here in about just under 2 hours. I actually talked to somebody about why they extended it to 2 days. Somebody that was in the room last year here in Sacramento. And I'm going to share that explanation. I have permission to share that. It makes a lot of sense, actually. It does make sense. I thought it was the Brawny show because of the way they did it, the way they held it, where they held it. And it's like, okay, maybe we're going to run it back one more year and do the second round on Thursday just so it doesn't look weird that we did it just for Brawny. No, there's a completely different explanation that makes all the sense in the world. So we will get into that in a few minutes. What I mentioned at the top that's given me a little bit of heartburn is the Kings might be considered the leading suitor for Dennis Schroeder. I've never been a big Dennis Schroeder guy. I think he is a shoot first kind of point guard. He is so incredibly streaky. Now, that being said, he's been in the league a minute. He's bounced around. He did not play well in Golden State. He finished out the season with Detroit. If, according to Mark Stein, Substack.com, the Kings were to bring in Dennis Schroeder, it would be at reportedly right around probably the 14.1 mid-level exception, $14.1 million. So where's everybody at with Dennis Schroeder? I am just a little bit below indifferent on Dennis Schroeder. Change my mind. Call the show. Let us know. You can scan the QR codes that will be on the screen throughout. Also, let me throw the link in the chat for you if you want to get up in here and contribute on the phones. Some really interesting stuff with this guy, Ace Bailey. I have followed his, I don't even think you can call it a process. His pre-draft routine, it wasn't a process. What he did during the pre-draft stuff, and I don't know what to make of this. And I wonder, one thing's for sure, dude's getting bad advice. 100% getting bad advice. His agent's Omar Cooper, who does not represent anyone else in the NBA. The only other person he represented was his own son, who is now out of the NBA. Regardless of all that, a lot of hype and a lot of talk about how this young man has handled himself. That's the way to put it. Handled himself. Well, he spoke to the media yesterday, and I thought his response was pretty interesting. So we will get into that as well. I told you there's a guy I love in this draft, and it's not Cooper Flagg. It is his teammate, Con Knippel. Dude is just a bulldog. He's a baller. He's one of those guys. Yes, we got that one. That is verified. That's why they pushed it back. He's taking a significant haircut. It's a 2-year, $50 million deal. He was set to make 41 for 1 year. If he would, I believe it was his option to opt in. So very interesting news there. I was going to get to that in a minute. But Con Knippel, man, he is probably, to me, besides Cooper Flagg, one of the most plug-and-play ready guys out of college. And to stand out enough on that Duke team, besides Cooper Flagg, that tells you something. I just like the way he approaches the game. If you go back and watch the national championship, man had a game. He has played himself into possibly a top 5 spot here in tonight's draft. Man, I would love for Sacramento to go up and get him. I would love it. He's just a universal piece. Dude does a little bit of everything. You can argue with me on that. That's why we're here, spirited debate. So let me know what you think about him. We'll go more into detail as the show goes along. If you were with us yesterday, Jerry Reynolds, awesome show, by the way. I asked Jerry, I said, when we're sitting at our tables on Thursday morning, like thinking it's old school, right? Like where we used to wait for the newspaper and you grab a cup of coffee, everything's instant. So we wouldn't have to wait till Thursday. So as we sit in our cars or at the dinner table with our devices in our hand, will we get a notification that the Kings have traded into the first round? Here's what Jared had to say. So 2 final questions to wrap up, and thank you again for your time. As always, I really appreciate it, especially please send Mrs. Reynolds my best. First question: as we sit here, or when we sit down Thursday to in the old days, pick up a newspaper, but more realistically, look at our tablets and our phones. Will the Kings have traded into the first round?
I think they will.
Okay.
I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I think there's enough teams would like to get out of the first round, that don't see this draft as it's kind of a limited appeal draft. You've got some real stars, but it looks like potential stars, but you don't see a lot of them. And so I could see where a first round pick would be more valuable to the Kings than other teams, especially a lot of teams that have them. So now, can they get up into the top 10 or something? I'm not sure about that. I think their chances of getting a top 20 pick probably are pretty good.
Okay. And all right. So Cristobal, really quick, my man. I yesterday was like, hypothetically, tell me what you think it would take to get Cooper Flag. I posed that question to everybody here on the show. And somebody asked in the chat, and I think I said I would ask Jerry that. I think I insulted Jerry for the first time. Like, I think he now has a little demerit next to my basketball IQ. Because I asked him, I said, what could the Kings possibly give up to get Cooper Flag? He goes, nothing. When was the last time Jerry Reynolds has had a one-word response? Nothing. I'm like, idiot. Why did I ask that question? So, yes, we could wish, but that would not happen, unfortunately. It is fun to think about. So anyways, Jerry and I had a great conversation. We were talking a couple of other things before we wrapped up. And somehow a very popular man around here who likes to put in a ton of messages into the chat became the topic of conversation. Dennis. Dennis the Menace, as I like to label him. And I had to check him a little bit. And we talked, or I brought it up when I took him to Stockton for the playoffs and how he, got his fan on. It was just, he got most of his money. And so everybody was very interested in that story. They thought it was pretty funny. And I told Dennis, it's all good fun, man. I'm not trying to get on you. And so, you know what? As I sat there on my couch, I'm like, was I wrong for that? Should I not have done that? I'm sitting there questioning it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to one of the other justices in the King's Court because this one was involved in the story. There's not just one justice. There's multiple justices here. So I decided to reach out to my man, Kevin John, who was part of the story, sent him a short clip, and Kevin gave us a ruling. Here it is. KJ, our court needs a ruling. True or false during the 209 playoffs? His response, let's just say it was a memorable night for a bunch of reasons, but Dennis's energy is unmatched. Dennis, there's your ruling.
Order in the court.
I was not out of line. KJ, thank you. Good job, Kev. Thanks for backing me up there. I mean, who wouldn't make a great time about that? But do you understand now when it was Dennis that won the right to go? And I'm like, Dennis, do not go out and buy Stockton Kings warmups. Do not show up in stuff that makes you look like a player. You're going to be on the end of the bench, my man. Don't be telling your family to tune in and saying that you are playing in the G League playoffs. So he got his taste of it. Kevin backed us up. Thanks, KJ. Appreciate you, man. You're the best. So that was a little bit of fun and follow-up from yesterday. Here's one other thing on my mind, especially with the Dennis Schroeder, which, to be honest with you, is fair talk for what the Kings are looking for and what that pool might look like. I get it. Doesn't mean I like it. I get it. And again, it's just a report, but what's going on in Boston? You knew they were going to have to make some significant cuts. I talked about this while the Knicks and the Celtics were in the middle of their series. And I'm like, now that Tatum's gone down, they know next year ain't a year. They were already very far into the luxury tax, so they were going to have to shed some players. Drew Holiday already in, well, not happily in Portland, and Porzingis has moved. And now reports coming out that they might be listening to deals for Derek White and Sam Hauser. So I ask you this. What would it take to get Derek White? That would be a game changer. Hell, could you get it? If you don't want to give up Derek White, but you're listening to offers for players, what about Peyton Pritchard? How good would he be here in Sacramento? Not that he would want to come here. That is like going from living in Hawaii to the Arctic Circle permanently. Two different worlds. You're coming from top level winning organization to the Kings, which right now are considered a little bit of a laughingstock of the NBA, but you don't know if you don't ask. So it'll be interesting to keep your eyes on what they end up doing. And tonight's going to be active. It's going to be really active. In fact, as I am talking about the Celtics right now, Shams just wrapped up. Shams was about to talk about the Celtics. We cannot go to it. So let's get to you. Let's see what everybody's saying today. Again, Grant and I are going to be on tonight after the first round of the draft. As long as the Kings do not make a trade, do not move into the draft. If they do, we will be on immediately. I will start the show. We'll get Napes in, and we will go from there. We will be able to break into the draft. So we'll play some audio from there. There's teams that have multiple picks. I do think it's going to be the late 20s. What is it, Brooklyn? How many picks does Brooklyn have? 1, 2, I believe it's 5 picks. 3, 4, 5. Brooklyn has 5 picks in the first round. Could you go get one there? We will see. So, all right. To you and the comments. What's up, y'all? I'm going to start from most recent, and then we will work our way back. E-Dog. Wait, we've got another dog? And do we just keep picking up dogs? I love it. It's like our 9th dog here in the King's Court. What's up, E-Dog? Kings have good players, yet the team is mediocre, in talent. They have good players, but they're mediocre in talent. I see what you're saying. As a collective. Too many times the Kings are trying to develop a young breakout player rather than trading him away for a package of players. Who are you? I mean, are you thinking about Keegan and Keon? Is that what you're thinking about? E-Dog, I would say this. Yes, the Kings are pretty talented. They made it to the play-in with almost every player, at least your rotational players, playing out of position. The Kings have been playing out of position for over 2 years. Now, whether it's due to injuries, whether it's due to bad roster construction, lack of moves, bad moves, you've been playing out of position. Priority number 1, get your guys back in position. Besides what Domas has been screaming.
The biggest thing is we need a point guard, that's for sure.
From the rooftops. We need a point guard. But I am very happy that we have another dog in the King's Court. That makes me happy. Welcome, E-Dog. Our 8th or 9th dog here in the King's Court. Torsha, if there is, they won't go top 5. Good players are all over every draft. We'll find a way to screw it up. Well, hey, look at Memphis and what they got in Jalen Wells. Jalen Wells was the 42nd pick last year, wasn't he? Was he actually 42nd last year? I got to look that up. I think he was 42nd. 39th. No, he was 39th. Close. Yeah, you might be able to find some talent. That's the thing with the Kings' limitations as the roster sits right now. They need to fill roster spots, and they don't have a lot of money to do it. So, yeah, if you can find value, I mean, if the Kings think that they can maybe get 3 second rounders, which is a massive ask, even asking a first rounder to come in and be a part of the rotation, it's a big ask. Look at the struggles Devin Carter had last year. I think Keegan Murray was kind of the exception because teams left him on an island. They just let him shoot from the corner, broke the rookie record for threes. And then that changed. The Kings will be very good. They have been very good at identifying talent that is undrafted and developing it. Look at Keon. Look at Isaac Jones. So as you look at this summer league roster that you will see come together shortly after the dust has cleared from the draft, it's something to pay attention to. And for two reasons. The first is you need somebody to maybe step up and show that they can play 7 to 8 minutes a night for the Kings. Whether that is, I'm looking at you, Isaac Jones. That's who I'm looking at, especially at that position as we sit today. But Devin Carter should play all of Summer League. He absolutely should. And he shouldn't just do well. Devin Carter should be the MVP of Summer League. He's gotten half a year in the NBA now. And he excelled when he went back to Stockton and was playing in the G. So I think you've got to be realistic, and you can't give too much. If it's a first round guy, you can't give too much up, because unless you're convinced that dude's ready to go, that's going to be a big ask. But I'm not going to put that all on the Kings. Yes, they have made their mistakes. But I can't really knock the drafting. I mean, I can. I'm not going to. But we've seen much worse drafting before than Monty McNair. Just put it that way. Brooklyn can knock themselves out. Yeah, right. Hope the Kings don't pay Murray $30 million per year, 20 at most, maybe. We'll see. Got to cross that bridge first. Sheep, what's up? There are probably 5 good players in the first round. I would say Knipple, obviously Flag. Let's look. There's going to be some guys that surprise you. I think last year's draft, by the way, if you're thinking in terms of last year's draft, I think you've got to change that thinking a little bit. For the first time in many years, last year's draft was it leaned heavier towards subjective rather than objective. It was more about, we think we can make the most out of this guy. We think he's the right guy for the system. It wasn't always take the best player, because it was such a weak draft. This draft is definitely not as weak. It is probably top 5 heavy. I would say that. And we'll see where those 5 fall. And we can go through some certain names if you want to. I'm definitely going to talk about the man of the hour, Ace Bailey, here in a little bit. And we've got Paul George talking about that as well. So we will get to it in a minute. Kings cannot afford to go after a washed up player this offseason and or sign ridiculous extensions. There's not a lot of room for extensions. You could start the talks. Maybe, by the way, it's the 29th. The Kings have to make the decision on Keon Ellis. Maybe you extend Keon. I just don't see it for Keegan this summer. Or I just don't. I think you start the conversation, but the conversation to me isn't just about money. I think the conversation is also about, I need to have a bigger piece of the pie. on offense. I think the Kings would agree with it because that's where it's kind of unknown. But will they actually follow through with it? Because if Keegan, here's the thing, the best thing to do is to feature Keegan Murray. And I'm not saying he's your number one option, but what I'm saying is guy needs to get probably I would like to see Keegan getting 12 to 15 shots a night. Here's why. You want his value to be higher if you are looking to trade him. I don't think the Kings are looking at that personally. Like if I had to say one King that was untouchable, I would probably say Keegs. He's your best defender. He can guard 1 through 5. If he was on a contender, he would be on one of the NBA all NBA teams. Period. End of story. You got to find out what you have so you can pay a fair price for him, or if he does really well, raises his trade value too. Now, when it comes to the extension, yeah, it might raise his value, might ask for a little bit more money if he starts putting out offensively. But remember this, the money that the Kings pay to him, because he is the Kings free agent, when you re-sign or extend your own free agents, it doesn't go against the luxury tax. It does go against the cap, but it doesn't go against the luxury tax. So somebody agrees with Grant. 2-day draft is a joke. So let's talk about that for a minute. I actually, I thought it was a joke too. And then I talked to somebody about it. And the first round is so incredibly hectic trying to call around. This is not the NFL where it's 7 rounds, it's a little bit slower. This goes fast. And there's a ton of conversations happening, which is why the rules are a little bit different about the trades in terms of when they need to be in and they can get executed afterwards as long as something's been submitted, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it goes fast in the first round. And so then you get into the second round, and teams want to treat the second round with that same, not as much intensity when it comes to the training, but really analyzing what's left, getting to take a step back and a deep breath, look at where everything fell from the first round and how it affects the rest of the NBA, how it affects your conference, how it affects your division, and then maybe readjusting possibly what you're looking at. It's too much in one night. So if you ask the executives, they're thrilled with it. They get to sleep on it. Well, they probably don't sleep much, but you get my point. They have more time to strategize and look at the 30,000 foot view and then go into the second day prepared. When you roll right into the second round, because you only draft 2 rounds. So I get Grant's grief, but from a logistical standpoint, I'm fine with it. I think it's okay. I mean, you're not, if you're the NBA, you're not doing the second round the same way you're doing the first round. Just like in the NFL, you don't see guys walking on the stage in the 7th round. It's like speed round. Boom, boom, boom. Picks are coming in, and the commentators aren't even talking about the guys that are getting drafted. They've got to go back like 10 minutes. So this is something that a lot of people in front offices like, according to the person that I spoke to. So whether you like it or not, I am good with it. They sold me on it. When SA traded George Hill for mid-first, they took Kawhi. Yeah. Kawhi was a lot more raw, though. I'm a San Diego State guy. He's an SDSU guy. I've got close ties to that program. Kawhi was a canvas and just a specimen. Dude's got the biggest hands. They're claws. His hands are massive. but in college, his jump shot was just you remember Along Came Polly? This is now the second time we have referenced that movie in like a week, where it's like raindrops and the guy's just freaking throwing the ball right against the backboard. Kawhi's shot was just a straight laser. So San Antonio did a good job making the most out of him. And what's going to happen with that Clippers team? That's going to be interesting to me as well. What are the chances there is movement with the top 5 picks? So let's talk about that, Sea-Dog. I want to get into this really quick. So for those that don't know, because I think this is going to play into it, there might be some gamesmanship going on in those top 5 picks. Let's look at them right now. In the top 5, obviously, Dallas, as many of you will say, got the frozen envelope. Picking 1, San Antonio 2, Philadelphia 3, Charlotte 4, Utah 5, and then I'm going to include Washington here. Washington 6. So think about those teams. Ace Bailey decided not to work out or talk with any teams after the combine. Not only did he decide not to work out for any teams, he actually canceled workouts the day of with some teams. And so now it's left teams in this weird position. And clearly, the angle is Ace doesn't want to go to some of those teams that are up there. Coming into this draft, he was considered easily a top 5 guy. Played alongside Harper, who's probably going to go number 2. Here's the problem I have. Yeah, 17.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and 1.3 blocks in 30 games at Rutgers, but their team was under 500 for the season. So that kind of worries me there. And here's the second thing I go to. These guys already have money. They've already got money. Now, it's not uncommon once a guy leaves a school. So once the season is over, they leave school and they head straight for training with different, there's all these different training facilities that get guys ready for the draft, both NFL, NBA, MLB, etc. They go move and they train full time, right? And many times these guys will get paid before the draft. It's not a coincidence. Before tonight's draft or before the 2023 draft, guys are wearing massive chains. Guys are wearing $30,000 suits. They get spotted some money. So in that sense, yeah, they had some money. But with NIL, some of these guys are making a lot of money already, which leads them to believe they now have leverage. They're not as worried about taking the hit on their salaries in the NBA, because if they think a position or a team is better for them, that's going to give them a better place to highlight their talent, then they're going to do that. Because in the long run, they're thinking, all right, well, I'm going to be the number 1 there instead of going to Philly and being the number, as we sit today, 4, 5 guy. So anyways, getting back to Ace Bailey, just some really what could be considered unprofessional approaches to dealing with teams. Also, some of his interviews that he had with teams, I heard from one executive that interviewed him. I didn't hear from him directly. I heard it through Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine. They were interviewing the executive. And I guess Ace was asked some questions about some different shots. About, hey, we're in this position. We're up this much or down this much. You've got this situation. You're playing this type of defense. And you have a 17-foot fadeaway available to you. Are you going to pass the ball for a better look? You going to take that shot? What's your approach to that, right? And Ace is like, Oh, I practice that shot. Yeah, I'm taking that shot every time. I practice that shot. And basically, what the executive was looking for is I realize that's a shot in the NBA that I'm going to have to develop with you and the team. I'm going to be looking for somebody else. That's not my best look. Although I might make it, it's not the best look for the team. They're looking for some humility. They're looking for at least recognizing maybe the weaknesses in your game because you're making a big investment in these guys. Huge investment. So, anyways, Ace Bailey yesterday finally was available to the media. And he was asked straight up about why he was not doing interviews, why he was not doing workouts. And here's what he had to say. And then you're going to hear Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine on the back end.
Ace, how are you tuning out the noise in the pre-draft? And obviously, are you hearing it? And what's your thoughts on it?
No, I'm just working on basketball. That's all I'm focused on. So
But do you feel like people get that the wrong perception?
I feel like I can only control what I can control. I mean, you can think how you think, but I can control what I can control.
So what can you control?
Me playing basketball.
So you could have controlled stuff with the workout. So.
I'm focused on basketball. That's my decision.
It's a great follow-up. He says, I can only control what I can control. And the guy says, well, you can control what workouts you attend, right? Yeah. So, like, he has all these, like, patented answers. I'm just focused on basketball. I can control what I can control. Well, yes, going to work out for the Sixers is basketball that you can control. So he doesn't really – the bottom line is he doesn't have an answer. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, bottom line, he doesn't want to say, I don't want to go play for Philadelphia where I'm going to be the 8th option on that team with a bunch of veteran guys that, like, how am I going to fit into this team? He's not like an off-ball player. He's an on-ball player. They play super slow with Embiid. Hey, you don't know what's going on with the team. Like, I got to be honest with you, like, I wouldn't want to go there either right now if I was a young player.
So that was them reacting to Ace Bailey saying he can only control what he can control. Now, I recognize, again, he is likely getting bad advice, but he is not making a good impression with teams. That's teams. I'm talking about the front office, talking about the ownership that's going to invest a top 5 lottery pick in you. What about your teammates that you walk into the locker room with? What are they going to think about you if you go to one of those teams that you don't want to go to? Word is that he wants to go to Washington. What do the kids say? WOTS, word on the street, is he wants to go to Washington, and maybe Washington is feeding him some bad advice. So Paul George, on his podcast, was asked about it. Here's what Paul had to say.
You know, I think if I'm Ace Bailey, I can't get mad if my stock drops. You know what I mean? I can't get mad if my stock drops, you know. But, he's canceled all workouts. Like, he hasn't worked out for any team. So, like, I don't.
One team?
No.
That's crazy.
He hasn't worked out for any team.
Tripping.
Yeah.
Tripping.
So, I think they made a big deal because we were scheduled to work him out, and he canceled the day up, but he hasn't worked out for any team. But you're not in a position to be making those demands. You know what I mean? Like,
not even there yet.
First,
yeah, you're not even there yet.
Or the people around him.
For sure, the people.
Of course,
around
the people
him.
around
For sure, the
him.
people around him. I think he's.
Mama and daddy's playing manager.
I don't know who's representing him. I don't know who's representing him, but I don't think they're going about it the right way. Obviously, Dylan Harper's the second best.
So there you go from Paul George. Pretty intelligent response. Not gonna knock him there. He knows what he's talking about. He's a veteran in the league, and yes, he's getting bad advice. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This is the time of year where teams are bluffing. This is the time of year that they're saying they're down on guys to make other teams, trying to get other teams off the scent of what you really want and what you really like. Because if there's somebody you really want, you're going to pay a higher price. So the teams in front as C-Dog asked about the top 5, there could easily be some gamesmanship. Dallas ain't going to do it. They're taking Cooper Flag. San Antonio likely taking Dylan Harper. Philly. Now, Philly is the one that reportedly Ace Bailey does not want to go to. Might they draft him knowing that Washington really wants him? I don't think Philly can take that risk. If the kid doesn't want to be there, I don't think you want him there. And quite frankly, based off of what I've read, looking at it, their college record, he played with Dylan Harper, y'all, and they were under 500. You're talking about 2 guys that might be in the top 5. So what's that tell you? Maybe one or both of them don't play well with other stars, or one or both of them need the ball in their hands all the time. Is that a risk you want to take if you're Philly? What if Washington says, yeah, we don't like him that much? So what Philly passes. Charlotte, I think they're really high on Knipple. I think he ends up there. We land to Utah. Do not put it past Danny freaking Ainge. Do not put it past him. If he knows Washington wants Ace Bailey, I could easily see them pulling the trigger on Ace Bailey. And it might kind of work in Utah. But they could easily extract something out of Washington if they want him that bad. And they seem to want him pretty badly. So I think the gamesmanship in the top 5 is going to be really interesting when you get to pick number 5. Could a team trade up to get Knipple? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. What do you all think? Do you see any trades? Nobody's going to trade with Dallas. Nobody. But do you see anybody else? Tay says, let's see what Scott Perry, will do tonight. Well, he seems awfully motivated. Been reading his Mondays. Ryan, this draft is not deep after Flag and Harper. Your thoughts? Tough one, Tay. These drafts used to, I think what makes it hard, you've got a lot of international guys that are coming into the league. We've seen the influx, and you could make the argument the international guys are actually closer to being faces of the league than some of the domestic guys. But with NIL, we're seeing just more and more one and dones, which makes it so hard because most of these kids that we're talking about right now, this time last year, they're walking across a high school graduation stage. They went from that, they went to college. A lot of them don't even go to class. They take online classes. So you're sheltered. You're only in that basketball bubble. So I think we're going to this draft, it's better than last year's draft. I'll put it that way. I think it's better than last year's draft. I think there's some value as you get between 20 and 30, depending on your needs. But my fear is you're not going to see very many more 3, 4, 5 year guys that enter the draft. And those are the guys that are usually ready, unless you're a talent like Cooper Flag, who can really play almost every position. Unless you're that type of talent that's been playing with NBA players for the last 2-3 years consistently in the off seasons, I think you're going to see weaker drafts. You just are. Because they're going to be fewer and far farther in between. Good draft, like really good draft classes, because you're going to be relying on a bunch of 1-year guys. You don't have that big mix anymore. Yeah, you could say guys that are making a ton in college, then you stay in college longer. Yes and no, but it's kind of different, Tay, with the transfer portal. Not just NIL, but the transfer portal. It used to be guys would play 3, 4, 5 years at the same school. But now you bounce around every year. So you don't have that consistent development. Now, you still have development, but it's not that consistent development with the same people. So I think drafts are going to kind of be like this from now on until that whole thing resolves. But that's kind of where I stand on it. Tell me, where do y'all stand? Who do you like for the Kings if the Kings were going to come up? Podcast P, horrible teammate. Okay, Romanowski. Interesting. What if he's injured? Who's injured? The process has failed. Yes, to a degree. Bailey is probably gone in the first 10 or 12 picks. No doubt. No doubt about it. He'll go. He's a wild card. He's a wild card. I just don't think it's a good way to enter the NBA. And quite honestly, just like I said last year, I felt bad for Bronny because Bronny didn't really have any control over his situation. Daddy's pulling the strings. LaDaddy is pulling the strings. And Rich Paul threatening teams, the Lakers putting stuff out there, don't draft, you draft him, blah, blah, blah. That being said, I think Bronny would have wanted to stand on his own merits, which he didn't get an opportunity to. And Bronny got killed. He shouldn't be in the NBA. He only got drafted because his last name's LeBron or James, which is true. That is true. In a similar sense with Ace Bailey, and you're going to know pretty quick once he gets to the league, in a similar sense, I feel bad for him too. And it's a bigger problem that colleges, this whole, the clearinghouse now that is in place because of the NCAA settlement that Deloitte is going to be operating, which is basically going to be an independent agency that says whether an NIL deal is fair or not fair to a player. Look, that's not going to do enough. You have these sharks out there that just get in these people. They ruin careers. They are career ruiners. And so until we have a bigger sample size from him, I kind of feel bad for who he's listening to. Getting some really bad information. Really bad information. I can tell you one of my college roommates, Marcus Slaughter. You can go look him up if you want. Marcus Slaughter. Dude came into college 6'9", I think, maybe pushing 6'10". He was a perimeter guy that could shoot the ball all over the court. He was lengthy as heck. He was athletic. If he would have stayed in college for 4 years, he would have been a first-round draft pick, hands down. But his dad, who eventually had to be banned from the team room, the way it worked was you've got the team room, right? You got the team room that's got a bunch of couches. It's got a bunch of TVs. It's got pictures of every player in it. And then you've got a door in the team room that leads to the locker room. So usually after games, families could come in the team room. There would be food waiting for it. It was always a jumbo jack. It was always Jumbo Jacks from Jack in the Box. SDSU had this thing with Jack in the Box. So, anyways, families would come in there and wait for guys to come out. And Marcus's dad started making his way into the team room like at halftime and trying to get in the locker room. And Marcus had given him his code and everything else under the moon. And it got everybody banned from the team room because Marcus's dad knew better than Steve Fisher and Brian Dutcher. And so when it came time for Marcus, man, I got nothing but love for you, but these are facts. Straight facts. I'm not going to go into the background of just how off the rocker his father was, but he told him to enter the draft when everybody, including NBA scouts, said, you will not be drafted. Period. End of story. Not going to be drafted. He stayed in the draft, did not get drafted, could not go back to school. By the way, he had a couple of, I think, summer leagues, maybe had a cup of coffee with the team, and ended up making a decent career overseas. He should be wrapping up his career right about now. I know he was getting close to it. So his dad ruined him, and he took his dad's word as just, I don't want to say like cultish, but it was like the word of God. And so what I'm saying is some of these guys, like I can only assume, like this Omar Cooper dude that's representing Ace Bailey, that isn't representing anyone else in the NBA. It only represented his son. Somehow got his claws into him. And dude's got to get a wake-up call. Maybe that comes tonight in the NBA draft. So I kind of feel bad for him. It has that writing all over the wall. Can cost guys their careers. It sucks. It absolutely sucks. Yeah, young professor 209. What are you a professor of? I like professors. Yeah, I like both those guys. I do. VJ might go 3. He might. We'll see. Question, what do you think of BYU Igor? Do you think he's worth a future first-round pick? Whew, that is a good question. Let me stew on it for a second. Depends. It depends. No loyalty, all egomaniacs, young professor. Tay says, I like Cam Jones, point guard from Marquette. If the Kings can snag a late first-round pick, a strong offensive player, and much better scorer than Devin Carter. Look, I'm not – here's where I'm at, y'all, with the Kings and what they do tonight. If you're moving into the first round tonight, unless you are moving into probably like the top 5, which I don't know how they would do, the Kings point guard is not going to be a rookie. It's not. The point guard for the Kings is going to come via trade or it's going to come via free agency. More likely via trade. And if you want to believe some of the rumors that we talked about at the beginning of the show, that the Kings are heavily linked to Dennis Schroeder, is that going to be your starter or is that going to be your backup? You still need another one. I don't think you move up in the draft to get a backup to Dennis Schroeder. But if the Kings are looking at a Dennis Schroeder, I got to think they're looking somewhere else. I don't think this draft is where you find a point guard at rookie. Unless, I mean, he is a special talent. He's the right guy. He's got the writing on the wall. I think that position right now.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
Is too important to the future of your franchise. Way too important. What I would do is I would move up to get that stretch 4-5 guy. That would be more realistic. Somebody that goes to the 4, probably doesn't start. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see what the Kings end up pulling off. but somebody that can block some shots, be on the perimeter, be down low, stretch the floor for Domas. I think you have better luck getting a guy like that, I really do, in a draft than you do a great point guard. That's a big ask. That's the quarterback of the team. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. Let's see. Tristan, what's up, man? New York Knicks are planning to interview New Orleans Pelicans associate head coach James Borrego for their head coaching job. Yeah, good stuff. What's going on in New York? Seriously. I know the tabloids are killing the Knicks right now for this coaching search. I don't think it's a big deal. They're kind of taking their time. I mean, maybe you're killing them because you fire Tibbs without like a plan. Like maybe they thought getting Jason Kidd would be easier. I'm thinking it's going to be Taylor Jenkins that ends up in New York. That's what I think. He's had a top 7 offense with or without Ja Morant. And that's what the Knicks need. Yeah, Ryan, it's a joke. That kid that just committed to Sac State was asked if he was in school, and he said, yeah. Then he said no. And then he said that he just had his, you know what? I know exactly what you're talking about. That got back to me, Daniel. He was asked the question about whether or not he was done with school, and he didn't know the answer. He went back and forth. Exactly what you're saying. Good job by you. So team workouts are interviews per se. What does a team workout include? Usually it's in groups, unless you're talking about a Cooper Flag. You're talking about one of those guys. At the top, you bring in a group of 3 or 4 different guys, and you put them through every team does it differently because every team's going to want to see something different besides the basics of basketball. Can he shoot? Can he dribble? All that. They're going to put them through drills to really see if their strengths are as strong as they are, but they're also going to put them through some drills of maybe some weaknesses that they see in the tape and put some eyes on it firsthand, as opposed to being in the stands, watching from above, from the camera, et cetera, et cetera. So it changes per every team. The interviews usually happen at the combine more times than not, but some guys and some teams will get much closer. I mean, Cooper Flag, he's a perfect example. His parents are kind of, as of 2 days ago, his parents were like, well, we're not really sure about if Dallas is going to take him. Yeah, they're taking him. Think about this. Did we just completely forget the Luka Heat as soon as they got the number 1 pick? Poof, it went away. Bailey's probably going to be gone. Yeah, we hit that one. Torsha, if you don't like that, you don't like Sac Republic. You know, I've never been to a Sac Republic game before. They look like a lot of fun. Should I hit a Sac Republic game? Let me know. If you're just joining the show, by the way, Jerry Reynolds, who was on with us yesterday, I asked him straight up. I said, Jerry, will the Kings have a pick in tonight's first round? Here's what Jared said. So 2 final questions to wrap up, and thank you again for your time. As always, I really appreciate it, especially please send Mrs. Reynolds my best. First question, as we sit here, or when we sit down Thursday to, in the old days, pick up a newspaper, but more realistically, look at our tablets and our phones, will the Kings have traded into the first round?
I think they will.
Okay.
I'm pretty optimistic. I mean, I think there's enough teams would like to get out of the first round, that don't see this draft as it's kind of a limited appeal draft. You've got some real stars, but it looks like potential stars, but you don't see a lot of them. And so I could see where a first round pick would be more valuable to the Kings than other teams, especially a lot of teams that have them. So now, can they get up into the top 10 or something? I'm not sure about that. I think their chances of getting a top 20 pick probably are pretty good.
Okay. And yeah, C-Dog, I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And I think that's why this is going to be the first impression of Scott Perry. And one thing I'm looking for, Jerry thought that they would be on the same page, is I want to see, holy crap, did y'all hear that? That was nuts. I want to see if the pick, if they move up or whatever they end up doing, if it's something that works well with what Doug Christie wants to do. Up until the trade deadline last season, you had the ability to rebuild if you wanted to, until you took on Zach LaVine's contract. It's just put you right in the middle. So until that contract's up or he turns, I always say, if you took the Kings' numbers, here they are. If you took what the Kings make to a CPA and you're like, I want a balance sheet. Show me a balance sheet. Show me a list of my assets and show me a list of my liabilities. Zach LaVine's contract would be under the liability column. Can anybody argue against that? Luckily, he stayed healthy last year. That was a big plus. But he's underperformed. If he can stay healthy and turn his contract into an asset, then maybe that changes for the Kings. Look, maybe there's a team out there that strongly needs a shooting guard. They feel like they are that player away and they're willing to pay the premium on him. But as of the trade deadline, the Kings were the only team in the NBA interested in Zach LaVine. So that is what messed it up. Monty's idea of keeping things fairly fluid, trying to keep the roster young, was great. He operated within his perimeters to where if this isn't working, we can easily make a move. That's a manageable contract. That's a reasonable contract. That's a guy teams like. We can change things up or we can rebuild if we want to. Zach LaVine screws you right there. And no offense against Zach LaVine. I would have signed the same contract. But that is where Vivek Ranadive, the second Mike Brown was fired, Monty had lost any say. Any say. The owner went back to doing what the owner does. It's an outlier. That is the opposite move of Imani McNair front office. So I think you got to kind of hunker down and board up the windows and ride out the storm until that contract's over or it turns into an asset. And by the way, that third year, that's a player option. I think Zach is going to opt out of that. So do we keep developing Keon then? I say trade him for, he's not worth a first. Well, is he worth a first? I disagree with you, E-Dog, about trading Keon. 100% disagree with you. Because for this team to have any success, it's going to be on the defensive end. I always say, I call them the universal pieces. Keon, Keegan, if Jake comes back, throw him in there. Devin Carter, throw him in there. They're universal pieces defensively. They could play for any other team in the NBA because of what they're able to do on the defensive end of the court. They're able to switch. They're able to guard up. They're able to guard down. And switching is everything in today's NBA. Being able to switch 1 through 5 like the Thunder could, my goodness, it's a game changer. And so with Doug Christie as a defensive coach, don't you kind of want to probably lean more a little towards that side of the ball? Scott Perry talked about defense. So I'm not letting up on Keon. Keon's best days are still ahead of him. ESPN had him listed, I believe, as a top 10 free agent at the guard position. Think about that. Maybe you can get first round. I would not like that unless you're getting a bona fide. You know what? Excuse me. I like Josh Hart. I saw somebody put in there that Josh Hart, the Knicks were in talks about something with the Kings. It was a rumor. Here we go. Kings move up to the first round with a trade with the Knicks involving Josh Hart and Malik Monk. You know, that is one of the first logical Malik Monk trades that I've heard. That's logical. That makes sense. That falls in line with exactly what I said a second ago. Interesting. Some of these guys are not on the team anymore. You can see how many holes that have to be filled. Excuse me, I keep saying that the Kings started the season with 3 guys that weren't on NBA rosters. Make it 4. Orlando Robinson. So a lot of filling to do. Backfilling to do. Devin Carter is not included on this graphic, by the way. So here's what they have. Here's what they have to work with. My man Peter has done a really good job. Let's go really quick. Let's cut into the ESPN broadcast. Let's see what they're talking about right now. Looks like they're talking about the Dukies. We'll keep going through the chat and again monitor the rumors to see if anybody is going to make a move up, if the Kings are going to make a move up. I know many of you are hoping that's the case, so long as it's a reasonable price. Here you go.
Go Harrison, he had one foot in the grave, the other on the banana peel when he traded Luka Doncic, and all of a sudden he get a generational talent in Cooper Flag, and not just a generational talent for the future, but for the now, right? The Mavs are legit title contenders in this next NBA season, and when you think about what Cooper brings to the table, he's going to match well with Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving when he returns, because the guy, he's a complete basketball player, and he's a unique one, right? It kind of reminds me of the Tim Duncan when he got drafted by the San Antonio Spurs, right? Tim Duncan, the number 1 pick, and he got drafted into a situation where he came in competing for an NBA championship. Usually when you're the number 1 pick, you get drafted to rebuild. Like, you're the franchise. Like, Tim Duncan came in playing alongside David Robinson, right? Another Hall of Famer. Cooper has that luxury, so you don't have to have the pressure of being the number 1 option early in his career. He could be that third option to Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, the only difference was Tim Duncan was 22 when he got drafted out of Wake Forest.
Yeah,
He's 18 and a half.
But he got old.
No, I agree.
Cooper talked all season about how he leaned into the veterans at Duke to help him transition here. But already imagine, middle ball screen, when Kyrie Irving's coming off of it, do you go with Kyrie Irving or do you stay with Cooper Flag? And then if you give Cooper Flag the ball, do you help to him because he can lob to Anthony Davis?
And that's enough Cooper Flag for me. So they're resetting here at the top of the hour for the NBA draft. We are exactly 50 minutes away from the start. Adam Silver walking onto the screen. Adam's going to take some at the Barclays Center. We know that. He always does. Poor Adam. Poor ears. So what's everybody thinking? What are the Kings going to do? What do you like at 42? As we sit right now, the Kings will not be drafting tonight, but they are trying to make a move up. We've talked about Dennis Schroeder as well. if they're looking to move up, who do you give up? I know the Kings are very reluctant to. I know Keegan. That's one that's not. Again, I'll reset this. If the Kings were to make somebody untouchable, it's Keegan Murray right now. And I think Keon is a close second because of their abilities defensively to switch. And Doug's strengths, defense. And actually, as you look at the Western Conference, Grant asked a great question. It was this. Is the West going to run through Oklahoma City the rest of the decade? Is the West going to run through OKC? Maybe. San Antonio is going to be much better. Houston, Dallas. I don't know that Houston's better, actually. I don't. Maybe because they brought Van Vliet back, but I just don't like the Durant trade for them either. Grant and I are on the same page on that one. But assuming you do have to run through OKC, I don't think you can beat that team with offense. It's got to be a team that is right like the Pacers. And I think what the Pacers had going was just a magical run. They were deep like the Thunder, but they were still able to play defense. Their transition defense was excellent, and they could score. So if you can't play defense in the West, you're not coming out. And I know the Kings are super, super far away from that spot. But I think if you're going to be thinking rebuild, like everybody is, most people are kind of wanting here in Sacktown. Why do you don't like the 12s? Come on. Don't do that, dog. Don't get on my... Don't make the list, dude.
You just made the list!
Come at me, Niner fan. Come get some, Niner fan. What's up, Finch? How you doing tonight? Nobody's untouchable, but they likely can't fetch a good return for either Ellis or Murray. They'd be selling Murray low. Well, yeah, you've already missed out on Keegan Murray's max value. Keegan Murray's max value was last summer. That's where his value was the highest because you were right in the middle of that rookie contract. His body was developing great. He's done everything the team has asked of him defensively. I think he has been asked to wear many hats offensively. And anytime a team rolls into the G1C, it seems like the other team's coach brings up Keegan Murray's name a lot. So having the offensive year that he did last year, even though the defense got much better, yes, you would be selling low. I'm with you there. OKC, only one because Tyrese got injured. I actually kind of agree with you there. I had the Pacers winning in 7 because I thought that I literally thought that they pulled one over our eyes and that calf was okay. Hey, let's go back to the draft really quick. Here's Adam Silver.
Not often that we see the number 1 pick going to a winning environment. How do you think that's going to impact him? What do you think of Cooper?
Well, it's fantastic for him. Just watching your coverage and thinking about the fact that he's only 18 years old, and you were 18 a lot more recently than I was 18. But it's unimaginable.
Yeah.
We both spent time with him now. I had lunch with the draftees, and his family was there, and just talked to him backstage. The way he's handling this all, if he can play the way he handles the off the court stuff, he's going to be incredible. But look, we've seen him play now. He has a body of work. Maybe most importantly, when I hear the way NBA players talk about him,
yeah.
And they played that select game out in Vegas before the Olympics. Again, I don't want to jinx him, but everything seems to be lined up. I also love the fact that, as you said, he's going to a competitive.
Can we get off a Cooper flag, Adam? I want to get some hard-hitting questions there. I don't want to go in on Matt. I like Matt. Look, having a credential, especially with the Kings, it's a difficult dance. I like Matt a lot. I like it the way it is for me because I've been able to create some access outside of Grant and I. By the way, we do not use each other as sources. We do not share information. But when you're credentialed, you got to be careful. It's very easy to lose your credential. Get a quick look from their PR person. I know more than one credentialed person here in Sacramento that's talked about that look that you get when you ask the wrong question. And when I mean the wrong question, the right question that the fans want to be asked. So, but yeah, filling up a daily pod's not easy. We seem to do it here. I'm with you, Rock. Get me him all day long. All right, Adam. Can we talk about something good?
Before the All-Star break. So it's not clear it's the number of games. And as you know, modern NBA players, even when they're not playing games, sometimes in the summer, they're working harder than they are during the season when they're playing 3 games a week. They're often playing every day. Some experts think it may have more to do with youth basketball. It may have as much to do with what they do from 10 to 19. Increasingly, they're single sport athletes. These guys train also harder than when I talk to veteran players. Now, I was talking to Andre Iguodala the other day, the head of the Players Association. He's saying he's counseling a lot of these players that they need more rest on their body in the off season. I mean, you've got guys working out 3 times a day. So I'm hopeful that by looking at more data, by looking at patterns, this is.
By the way, interesting stat here. From 2019, if you go 50 years back from 2019, there had only been 47 Achilles tears. 47 in the NBA. There's been like 8 in the last few years. I think Adam hit the nail on the head right there. I think Jerry and I talked about this yesterday. Jerry is a big fan of the rest. I think the rest is huge. But the bigger thing for me is it's the same movements over and over. It's why pitchers have Tommy John surgery, and it's what he also said, specialization. How many of you in the chat that played multiple sports? I was here. Hold on. Let me preface this. Since I am going to do my own little Uncle Rico thing here, throw the football over the mountains, would have won the championship if coach would have put me in. Do I have some Napoleon sound? I might have some Napoleon sound. Can I get lucky and pull some Napoleon Dynamite sound? We'll work on that. But I played 3 sports, played football, basketball, and track and field. I was a high jumper. So I think that was so much better for your body than doing the same movements over and over at a young age and specializing in one sport.
Idiot.
There we go. We found that. Good job, producer. Ellis needs to be a starter. I agree. Well, depending on what you got. Yeah. Do you remember what Bobby Marks said? Bobby Marks said he talked to another executive and somebody plugged into the Kings organization. And the question was, if you told Vivek you have to go away for 2 years, you can't be in contact with the team, you can't do anything with the team, but when you come back, the team will be in the playoffs and you'll have a winning team. Both people said he wouldn't do it. So I'm kind of hoping we've got this thing going around here on the King's Court where we're working on Celebrity Row for Vivek, where he can occupy his time with B and C-list celebrities to where he just forgets about basketball. And then you know what they do? They walk across the Tower Bridge, go to West Sac, see some baseball, gets the big suite at the end of the park. He'll forget about basketball altogether. We're good. Maybe he'll buy a baseball team and sell the Kings. Who knows? So if you got ideas for Celebrity Row, we'll take them. Anyways, don't forget, we've got draft coverage all night for you tonight. Grant and I are going to come on tonight after the first round to talk about it. Expect it to be a very active first round. And if the Kings make a move, it's the important part. If the Kings do make a move, we will come on the air right away. I will get the show started and we will get Grant up and running. So make sure, do us a favor, if you're subscribed already, give us a thumbs up, give us a like. If you're not, subscribe. We'd love to have you here on if you don't like that. Daily content, even when the Kings are out of the season. Kings Court, Monday through Friday, 3 o'clock. We have Jerry Reynolds as well every Tuesday here in the Kings Court. And Grant, many times, 8 o'clock shows. Him and I come together as well for shows. And before you know it, we will be rolling back into football and basketball again and Kings. So a lot of good stuff coming your way. So join us again tonight as we're going to cover the NBA draft. Everybody wondering if the Kings are going to make a move. So I refresh my iPad. Let's see. First draft pick trade of the night. The San Antonio Spurs are trading the number 38 pick in tonight's draft to the Indiana Pacers for a future second round pick in cash considerations. Per Shams, the New York Knicks, well, we already got the interview. So, yeah, that's our first trade of the night. The Spurs, who have 2 picks in the top 12, are going to be trading. Do they have 2 in the top 12? Top 14? Top 14. They're going to be trading their 38th pick to Indiana. That makes a lot of sense. You've got a lot of dead money on the books with Tyrese's contract this year, since he won't likely be playing. So anyways, we can continue kind of what would Vivek do to be in the NBA Finals? I don't know. Isn't that a catch-22? We just said if Vivek went away for 2 years, don't take it from me. Take it from Bobby Marks. This was Bobby Marks that said this. He asked 2 different people that if Vivek went away for 2 years, no contact with the team, let his basketball people do basketball things, and when he returned, he would have a team in the playoffs. He was told Vivek wouldn't do it, in their opinions. So it's a catch-22. You're not in the finals unless Vivek goes.
Sacramento fans deserve better. Because you do.
You do. Look, we're not sitting here spearheading any type of fire. You can't fire him. Sell the team stuff. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to analyze the moves and report what we know about the team and cover the team. And just go back and watch our post-game show after the Mavs play-in game as news was breaking in real time. We knew. We told you that night that Doug Christie would be returning as the coach for the Kings. And we also knew that the Kings had already hired Scott Perry. That eventually came out really early in the morning by Sean Cunningham. So, yeah, stuff like that. Got to do a little bit better. Spurs get way more for Fox too. Just watch. I don't know, Edgar. You know what? I actually am going to go the other way for you, since it looks like maybe, just maybe, Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee. I wonder if De'Aaron's going to be the odd man out. This is the last year of De'Aaron's contract. You know, Rich Paul has his pedal on the floor with that San Antonio front office about getting an extension. And Kevin, what's up, man? It has been a long time. Kevin, my man.
Acknowledge me. Acknowledge me.
Gotcha, brother. How you doing, dude? The number that De'Aaron left on the table in Sacramento, it's not going to be nearly what San Antonio is going to offer. So that would be ironic. That would be very ironic. Extremely. So anyways, we've got the draft still coming tonight. We can look at some mocks really quick. In fact, we can look at the NBA's mock draft. NBA.com. Here's what they got. Cooper Flagg going first. Dylan Harper second. VJ going third. I'm not even trying the last name right now. Con Knipple going fourth. He is he is probably my favorite player in the draft. Outside of Cooper Flagg. Just an all-around really good basketball player. Plug and play. Ready to play. Makes your team better. Right off the spot. By the way, probably guards multiple positions too. Trey Johnson going fifth to the Jazz. Ace Bailey. So I mentioned this earlier. We had a discussion about Ace Bailey and how he has handled his pre-draft preparations, which has been very poor in the eyes of many. In fact, if you're just joining us, this was Ace Bailey yesterday being asked about why he did not work out for any teams after the combine, why he didn't talk to any teams after the combine. And by the way, he canceled workouts with teams, with NBA teams on the day, in some cases, of the workout. Here was what Ace Bailey had to say, and followed up with some comments from Frank Isola and Brian Scalabrine.
Ace, how are you tuning out the noise and the pre-draft? And obviously, are you hearing it? And what's your thoughts on it?
No, I'm just working on basketball. That's all I'm focused on so far.
But do you feel like people have the wrong perception of you?
I feel like I can only control what I can control. I mean, you can think how you think, but I can control what I can control.
So what can you control?
Me playing basketball.
So you could have controlled flow with the workout.
I'm focused on basketball. That's my decision.
It's a great follow-up. He says, I can only control what I can control. And the guy says, well, you can control what workouts you attend. Right? Yeah. So like he has all these like patented answers. I'm just focused on basketball. I can control what I can control. Well, yes. Going to work out for the Sixers is basketball that you can control. So he doesn't really, the bottom line is he doesn't have an answer. That's what it comes down to.
Well, I mean, bottom line, he doesn't want to say, I don't want to go play for Philadelphia where I'm going to be the 8th option on that team with a bunch of veteran guys that like, how am I going to fit into this team? He's not like an off-ball player. He's an on-ball player. They play super slow with Embiid. You don't know what's going on with the team. Like, I got to be honest with you. Like, I wouldn't want to go there either right now if I was a young player.
So the whole thing about Ace Bailey, he seems to be pushing for Washington. I would keep an eye on him tonight. We've already hit it, but it'll be interesting to see if Danny Ainge or somebody else takes him and tries to get something out of it and trade him to Washington, make them pay a little bit of a higher price. I could see it happening. I really could. Also, this was interesting. While we have a few minutes as we continue to lead up to the draft, again, Grant and I will be on after the draft tonight, unless the Kings make a move. If the Kings make a move, we will be on immediately to get the coverage going. We can tap in to the draft coverage as well via audio. We cannot do it via video. So make sure that you are hanging around if you want the best Kings analysis here in town. It is the place for you. So the Athletic already came out with power ratings. Yes, power ratings. On the right side, you've got the top 100 prospects. By the way, really quick, y'all, here's a name that I am actually pretty high on. Let me go back. I've already told you who I'm the highest on besides Cooper Flagg. Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant was a bench guy at Arizona. But he's got a 7-foot wingspan. He's 6'7". Pretty athletic. I wonder how and where he might fall. And could the Kings maybe have an eye on him as a 3-and-D guy? He's listed here as the 10th best, according to The Athletic. So anyways, all right, where do you think the Kings fell in the power ratings? Preseason, before the draft, power ratings. Where do you think the Kings are at? I was shocked by what their rating is. I thought it was going to be way worse. Seems like a smart player, thinks outside the box. Are you talking about Ace Bailey? Come on. Bailey wants to play with vets so he can get a nice second contract. Seems smart. No, he wants the opposite. Bailey wants to play with Washington, wants to play with the young guys. Wants to play with the young guys, reportedly, allegedly. You got any news on the Vegas tournament? Just that what we talked about yesterday with Deepish coaching the team for Vegas. Other than that, you're not going to know a ton until this whole draft process, the next 2 days, play out, because you're going to be signing a lot of unsigned free agents. I've already gone on the record and said I don't think the Kings can do the favor to, unless the guys can actually really play and do something. I don't think the Kings can do like we'll bring on a couple Sac State guys to the roster. Anybody that's on that Kings roster for Vegas, you've got to take a look at them, because the Kings have just so many holes to fill. And don't get me wrong, it's summer league. It's guys that probably will not. Most of them won't be in the NBA. So you're not looking for a guy that's going to step in and be a role player, but you are going to be looking for guys that maybe you can continue to develop and you can keep in the system. Devin Carter, I think, needs to play all through Vegas, and he needs to shine. Needs to probably be like MVP level, because he's already got half a season in the NBA. So a lot of stuff there. IJ too. I'm looking at IJ a lot as well. I want to see if he plays as well, but we'll have much more news on that once the Kings finish out this draft process. We'll see if they move up here in the second round. We only have one trade so far tonight. The only trade is the San Antonio Spurs traded the 38th pick to the Indiana Pacers for a future second round pick and cash. So we wait to see if the Kings are going to make a move. Spurs didn't give away. Boom! Raymond, comment of the day. It's not a question, but you're going to get the Jerry Reynolds.
That's a great question.
Let me fix that.
Woo. That's a great
observation. The Kings put De'Aaron Fox on a silver platter and force-fed him to San Antonio. They have very little skin in the game with that trade. So yes, he could be the odd man out, depending on how much money he's looking for. Let's see. DeRozan, yeah, not much for DeRozan. Actually, I think DeRozan is getting a lot more interest than many of you think. This CBA, I've said this many times, this CBA is a year. The CBA is for 7 years. We're in the first year of it. But in terms of how teams are going to be operating, it's going to be a win this year operation. This year, unless you're a team clearly that's rebuilding. Portland the last 2 years has been clearly rebuilding. And they've done a great job of it, by the way. Portland has done an excellent job of rebuilding. And I'm interested to see what they do tonight. But if you think you have a chance to win, like Orlando thinks they have a chance to win next year, or at least come out of the East, you're going all in. And if it doesn't work, you're going to start seeing players get traded left and right. Teams are going to switch things up. Teams are going to cut salaries like the Boston Celtics are doing. And they're going to retool for the year after that because the punishments are so severe with future picks being lost, depending on the apron you're in, losing your MLE, not being able to sign a free agent that was bought out with a contract that was at the MLE or higher. Things of that nature. It's trying to redistribute the wealth in the NBA. So it is going to be a year-to-year championship race. Year to year. So if you're a team that's looking at yourself and it's like, we're close, there's going to be teams interested in DeRozan. And it's not going to be as a starter. It's going to be a six-man. And DeMar deserves better than what he got here in Sacktown. The only thing I can complain about with DeMar, and I know this style was different, and I know the ball movement would bug us at times. The only thing I can complain about is the toe on the line all the time. That's it. Like, what's the quote from what's the movie? The movie with the dude. What's the movie? Over the line, Donnie. Here's Bobby Marks talking right now. See if he's saying anything.
And as you said, Malika, this is a win now team when you look at this Dallas Mavericks roster. This is the roster with Kyrie.
We're so Mavericks heavy. Fox goes to Houston? Maybe. I don't know. Look, Fox is going to get... I'm telling you, De'Aaron Fox is going to get a big wake-up call, in my opinion. I don't think with player movement, I don't see... Thank you, Horst. Big Lebowski. Over the line, Donnie. I got to get that sound drop for DeMar DeRozan. I lost my train of thought. All right, it'll come back to me because I was reading. Rhino, I would never trade you. You are untouchable. Thank you, Rock. Literally, you can't touch me because I'm in your screen or I'm on your phone or doing something else. You can't get to me. Oh, Fox. That's what we were talking about. I just don't with the trajectory of San Antonio and it being such a desired destination, I don't see them getting into bed with him for multiple, like 3-4 years at 30 million or over. I know it sounds crazy. I think there's better options. Again, whoever put it in there that said they didn't give up much, they didn't. They did not. Now, that would be a good move. If Houston thought they could go all in, it is going to be a reality check. Nobody else is saying it. Everybody is like, oh yeah, Fox, even Brian Scalabrine. I hear it all the time. That's the only national show that I listen to. I do not listen to local shows here in Sacramento other than the segment that Dave and Jason, what's up guys, love you both, do with Sam Amick. And I only catch it once in a while. Agree with you. Worse with Katie. But if they thought they could go all in, maybe De'Aaron could go there. I don't know. He said he's wanted to play in Houston before. But you know what? He's made, here's the other thing, y'all. He has made a lot of money here in Sacramento. He's going to be fine financially. So if he wants to win and he wants to be a 1B, which he's always been, not a 1A, or he wants to be a 1A and not a 1, which has always been kind of his thing. Do it in San Antonio. You'll win a championship. We'll see if it was or was not about the money. You were talking about the Fox wake up call. Appreciate you. Thank you very much picking me up there. As we roll along, we are about less than 20 minutes away from the NBA draft. Only one trade to report so far. That was San Antonio trading their 38th pick to Indiana. So Indiana will have that pick. They are sending a future second and also some cash. I always think it's funny. Cash. How does that work? Is it a wire transfer? Send them a check? Like, how's that work? Just wondering. Here's some talk about the Hornets pick. I found that I think this is interesting. Let's go in really quick.
Seeing more of the top prospects in this draft being college freshmen or coming from college. And I think we're likely to see that on into the future because the money is so significant, being able to go the college route and then jump to the NBA.
And we're seeing that the proof is in that because there's several pairs of teammates that we could be seeing getting drafted in the first round here between Illinois, Duke, and then of course Rutgers. Our Monica McNutt is with teammates from Rutgers, Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper.
Thank you, Malika. All right, gentlemen, the day has finally arrived. How are we feeling?
It's very, very emotional right now. I mean, my emotions everywhere. I'm excited. I want to cry. I mean, just hard work paying off. I'm here.
That's Ace Bailey.
Feel great, excited, just ready to be able to play basketball again. Whatever city I go to, I mean, I'm grateful. I'm excited.
All right, so we know you guys have a ton of personality and chemistry as friends and basketball players. Ace, I want you to describe and rate Dylan's suit.
Dylan, he's a very calm man. He don't like too much. He could.
I don't need any suit talk. Was Kevin Huerter worth it? Yes. I don't. I think we've got to take a step back and realize that, yes, Keegan missed open threes at times. Yes, Kevin missed open threes at times. But the Kings started ruining three-point shooters, ruining them because they didn't adjust the system. So I do think Kevin was actually worth it. The Kings are the ones that didn't make the most of that run. It started with extending Sabonis the summer after the playoff run. They should have waited. That money could have been spent somewhere else. So really quick, getting back to the power rankings, which I really don't care about, but I do find this funny. The Kings are at 20. I thought it was going to be a lot worse. I thought it was going to be way worse. So 20, the Spurs are below the Kings. How about that? Portland, right there. Phoenix, Toronto, Philly. Yo, Jay. Jay, where you at, man? You and I, this time last year, had a big debate about why Paul George was worth it, according to you. How's that working out right now? New Orleans, Charlotte, Washington, and Utah. So that's what rounds out the power rankings. Rumor has it Sabonis feels like... Really? Sabonis needs a point guard? Are you sure?
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
I've never heard Domas be so direct. So that was the answer right there. Hey, Domas, what do you think this team, what does the team need to improve? He just goes,
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
I know. Well, I don't want to say it's smoking crack because I do know the author of this. If it was Law Murray, Was it Law? Yeah, it was Law Murray. So no, Law was not smoking crack. He's giving Sacktown some love. The Spurs behind the Kings is interesting. I do find that interesting. Is there a player the Kings could land that could net them +8 wins? +8 wins. Can I put a percentage on it? If I had to put a percentage on it, I would say like 20-80. 20-80. If they were to get into the first round and get a 7-footer that can play the perimeter and inside as well, maybe somebody athletic, and those guys don't grow on trees. I do like the guy from Arizona who I talked about, Carter Bryant. I love Colin Knippel. I think he is awesome. He is going to be really, really good for whoever drafts him. But that's a special rookie. Do you think Keegan Murray netted you +8 wins in the Beam Team year? You might be able to make that argument, breaking the rookie record for three-pointers. You might be able to make that argument. You know, before we get off here, because we're gonna hop off when the draft begins, but we will be back on. Grant and I will be on either. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If the Kings make a move, I got to get a better picture of Napes there, man. Kind of looks like Ronald McDonald. I got to do better than that. Sorry, Napes. I did not do you any favors. I will make that right. But make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, following us on X or here, YouTube, so you'll know when we go live. We will go live immediately if the Kings trade into the first round. And again, what will likely happen is there'll be a report, and the Kings will not probably be drafting. You won't hear them. It's unlikely that the Kings are going to make a trade anytime between now and the draft to acquire a pick in the first round. They're going to see how the draft goes. And if there's a player they really like, they're going to call that team up. That team's going to draft that player. And then you'll hear about the trade announced afterwards. Now, that means the trade will probably be reported before it. So once that whole process starts, if we get a sham bomb or anything along those lines saying that the Kings are trading for this pick and the team plans to draft so-and-so, we'll go live. We'll be right here and we'll roll out the rest of the draft with you, and we'll talk about the player and break into the draft as we will throughout the night. And if the Kings don't make a move, no worries. We're still coming on. We'll be on at the end of the first round. So make sure you join us. Before we go, and thank you to the 619 of you between X, between YouTube that have checked in at some time. Napes, can you give me a discount on a Big Mac? I feel bad. I did not do him any favors there. Yeah, Andrew, there is a lot of there's enough smoke that the Kings, realistically, between 20 and 30, realistically, there's enough smoke that could happen. It would probably. Thanks, Gail. Love you. Gail, do me a favor. Gail, I need you to give your buddy in Boston a call. You know the GM, Brad. Can you give him a call and go get us Peyton Pritchard? Bring me Peyton Pritchard, Gail. I would be so happy. I think the more likely scenario, Andrew, is the Kings trading future draft capital to get in. If the player that a team wants isn't there and they're willing to move, it's probably future draft capital that the Kings would give up. So, dude, just hit Brad Stevens up, Gail. Take him wine tasting in Santa Barbara. Do whatever you need to do. I'll send you Haunted Horse's Visa number. Just get us Peyton Pritchard. Okay, I check that. I'm not going to send you Haunted Horse's Visa number. I don't want it to decline.
You just made the list!
Hey, Haunted Horse, can I ask you a question? How many holes are in your wallet, my man? Do you know how many holes are in your wallet?
I didn't know there were 2 holes. I thought it was just the one.
Just one hole in the wallet where the money falls out. Anyways, we're having fun at the end of the show. Join Grant and I. We'll be here if the Kings make a move. And we'll certainly be having our ear to the ground if we hear anything. But most likely, if you're looking to find out in stuff like this, it's going to come from Shams. It's very unlikely that it will come from anybody local. It will likely be Shams making the report. So yeah, we'll keep you in and plugged in, but we'll be back either when the Kings make a move or at the end of the first round to go through it with you. Can we just take a moment of silence? Because you know it's going to happen. David Lee, I remember him. He played hard. He played really hard. Can we take a moment of silence? There is going to be one unfortunate soul tonight that got invited to the draft that's just going to sit there and just sit there and just sit there and just sit there. Camera's going to be in his grill. He's falling.
Yeah, kids were mean.
It's going to stink. So to that person, I respect you in advance. It's not an easy thing to do. Not an easy thing to do. Kind of stinks, right? Well, you should know whether or not to go. You really should. But sometimes, hey, some people don't go or don't get invited and they go. And they're walking out from the stands. I think that's what Giannis did when he was drafted. So to our dear friend who is supposed to get drafted much higher than they are supposed to. Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Hello, friends. And hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Hello, friends. Welcome to this tradition unlike any other.
Which is sitting in the green room, undrafted. Again, Ace Bailey, that's to me the story of your first round. Does anybody trade, or story at the top of the draft? Will Ace Bailey fall to 6, where Washington wants him and he wants Washington? Or will Danny Ainge swoop him up and make Washington pay? We'll see. In the silence, or is the silence? Good job, Paul. Good job. You know what? We should have done a moment of silence. How wrong of me there. My bad.
You're gonna
Good job.
acknowledge me.
I acknowledge it. Good job. Yeah, he was an all-star. Dude was a hustler. The Kings need a hustler like that. Hey, what's up? CRTV. Should we just tank next year? You can't, CRTV. You can't. Your pieces are good enough to be competitive, but not good enough to win a title or make noise in the playoffs. As you sit today, you are in what is called basketball purgatory. And no, even if the Kings could tank, they would not tank. This city would not stand for it. There is a standard when it comes to basketball. The Kings fans can put up with missed shots. Kings cans Kings fans can put up with honest mistakes, but not hustling, not diving on the floor, not giving it your all, that's what gets you booed. That's why when the team sucked and they weren't very good, they had the longest consecutive sellout streak, because this city demands a standard of effort. So tanking would not fly. It would not. Now, maybe if they did tank, that would be the best way to get Vivek. Anyways, we're not going to get into that equation. All right, draft starting here in a couple minutes. Make sure that you are, well, first off, enjoy the draft. Make sure you come back if the Kings make a move. Napes and I will be on right away for that. If not, we'll be on at the end of the first round. Getting back, we'll close here. The stories at the top of the draft, I mean, these are my big stories. We already hit Ace. Will he fall to Washington where he wants to be? Will Danny Ainge, somebody else, take him and then try to squeeze something extra out of Washington? Seems like those two really want to go together. Other story, somebody going to go up for Con Knipple. I could see somebody maybe trying to move up a little bit for him. And yeah, that's kind of it for me. I think everything else is pretty cut and dry. Now, you're going to see a lot of trades. There's going to be a ton of trades. In fact, let me check in with Shams one more time before we go off the air. Yep, nothing else as of right now from Shams, but there'll be a lot of moves tonight. Teams are going to move around. There's a lot of teams that are willing to get off of their draft spots. So hopefully the Kings can get a good deal. It's better for the Kings if a lot of teams are wanting to get off, because then the price goes down. So that's probably what Scott Perry is hoping for, is there being a lot of spots available and not a lot of buyers. So we will see. We'll talk to you here in a little bit. Thanks for joining us or joining me for the Kings Court today. Be back in a little bit with Grant. Go Kings, light the beam. Kings move up, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Ellis, Murray still on the roster. We're all good. All right. We're out. Domas, what do the Kings need?
The biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
Court's dismissed.
Order in the court.